Hey there. I am making another video, and in this video, I wanted to talk about what you can tell about your parents from looking at a birth chart. Um, And first, I just want to say up front, just kind of straight up right now, a brief summary, just kind of a brief sentence about where you can look in your birth chart, and then I'll get a little bit more into it. So, to look for your mother in a birth chart, the first thing that you could look to is the fourth house, so that governs your upbringing when you are a child, and it also has special connections to your mom. And then also your moon kind of describes what your mom was like. So you would look to your moon sign, and you would kind of like look to any, different aspects. And then as far as your dad, you would look to the 10th house, and then you would also look to your sun. So your sun sign, that would tell you a little bit more about your dad. So anyway, I'm going to get into it right now a little bit more in depth. So, like I said, first I'm going to talk about your mom and how you can look and see your mom in a birth chart. So the first thing, if you want to go by house, the first thing that you would look for would be your fourth house in your birth chart. So that indicates like your childhood, and that also, shows if you have, depending on what kinds of planets there are in there, it will tell like what sort of relationship you have with your mom. Like I know of a woman, she has Saturn in her fourth house, which is not good, because obviously Saturn is the bad planet, and that's where our problems and our issues lie. So that's not good in the fourth house. And I know that she didn't have a good relationship with her mom. Like her mom left when she was a baby, and her mom was in and out of her life sometimes when she was growing up, and she doesn't really even know who her mom is very much. So you would have to see, whether there are good planets, or whether there are bad planets regarding your mother in the fourth house. But like if somebody had, good planets in there, that would be good. That would mean that they would have a good relationship with their mom. And then as far as which planet, you look to your moon. And so your moon represents your mother. So you would have to see, what sign it is, and that would represent your, kind of what your mom is and everything. Then you would just kind of like look in your chart. So for example, I'm going to use myself as an example, because if you've listened to my other videos, I have talked a little bit about before that I grew up in a very abusive home. And my mom was like the meanest person that you'll ever meet. And so my Chiron, which is the really bad asteroid, that is that shows where my deepest wounds lie. So that's very accurate. That my Chiron is conjuncting my moon. And so, for anybody's chart, you would also have to have really good, you would have to see what, it also depends on the aspects to the other planets. So if you had, a bad, planet conjuncting your moon, that would mean that you have a bad relationship with your mom. But if it were aspected, then if you had, good planets surrounding that or something, then that would be meaning that you have a good relationship with your mother. But the 12th house is bad when we're like looking, we don't want to see anything in the 12th house. And the 12th house indicates, because the 12th house is really bad, and that's all about, demons and jail and prison and, self-limiting beliefs and insecurities. So the 12th house is bad, and so obviously you wouldn't want to have your moon, your mother, in there. So I actually know a guy, and he has his moon in the 12th house, and his mom died when he was a little kid, like when he was in kindergarten. His mom died, so that's obviously bad. We don't want our moon, our moms in the 12th house. So the 12th house is, obviously bad. So if you want to, once again, I'm just going to kind of generalize this, just kind of summarize this for number 1, number 2. If you want to look for your mother in a chart, you look to the 4th house, and you can also look for the moon. Okay, so the second thing that I'm going to talk about, of course, is where we look in our birth chart to find more about our dad. So first, the first thing that you can do is you can look at a chart in the birth house. So you can look at the 10th house in your chart. I actually have a client of mine, and he has Chiron, so that's the really bad asteroid. So that's the asteroid about your biggest wounds and your insecurities, and more somebody like really, really hurt you. And so his Chiron is in the 10th house, and he didn't really have like a really good upbringing and everything. He's never been married, never has any kids. Like he's never, I just think that he's like really alone and everything. And that indicates, looking at his birth chart, that indicates that he has, a bad upbringing. I think that he has issues with his dad because he has Chiron in his 10th house. So yeah, you would have to look at the 10th house to know about your dad, and if it had like good, planets in it, like, then that would be good. But if it had like bad planets, like I have a friend of mine, and he has Saturn in the 10th house, so that's obviously not a good planet. So you would have to see what different planets there were in the 10th house. Then the second thing that you do to look for your dad in your chart is that your dad is represented by your sun sign. So just looking at somebody's sun sign off the bat would tell you a little bit more about, who your dad is and everything. And of course, certain aspects, like if, the sun were aspected and had really bad planets on it, that would not be good. But if it had really good planets on it, it was conjunct with, good planets, then that would be something that is a good thing. And again, I also get into the 12th house because, the 12th house up front, it's a really bad house. That's the bad house. It's the one of jails and prisons and our own demons and insecurities and being really afraid of what we really can't do. So it's never good to have anything in the 12th house. And so it's not good because that indicates the death of a parent. When you have your sun or your moon in the 12th house. And I actually know a lady, she had sun in her 12th house, and she told me that her dad died when she was a teenager. So since the sun is representing our fathers, obviously you would not want it in the 12th house, so that's not a good thing. So yeah, basically this is my video about how to tell about your parents from your birth chart, and once again to kind of generalize what I just said about your dad. To find out more about your dad from your birth chart, you would look in the 10th house and see what planets are there, and then you would also look at your sun sign, and then see what placement it's at, and if it's like conjuncted by any if there's any planets that are conjuncting it.